Shalom and welcome back to the tea table, my friends. As always, I'm glad that you could join me today. I remember when I was a youngster living in New York, and one of the things I really enjoyed doing was driving my two older brothers right up the wall. As a matter of fact, I enjoy doing the same thing to many of my friends, and oftentimes to my mother as well. Here's what I would do. I would tell them I was going to do a specific thing, or a chore, or a task, or whatever it was, and then change my mind. Example, I would tell my mom I was going to spend some time with Frankie, who was my best friend. 15 minutes later, I would tell her I changed my mind. I was going to read a book. 10 minutes later, I told her I changed my mind again and I was going to take a walk. 10 minutes later, I said, I changed my mind again, I'm going back to Frankie's house. And usually the response I got from her was, why can't you make up your mind? Now, you need to understand, I wasn't being wishy-washy. I just enjoyed being a pain in the neck and changing my mind every 15 minutes, and it was just a way for me to push the other people's buttons. I'm sure many out there have experienced exactly the same thing, either from your children or your spouse, and you know what I mean. Your spouse says something like, why don't we go to the movies today? And you say, what a great idea. Why don't we go to the noon matinee, which is less expensive? And then the closer you get to showtime, you ask, well, what time are we leaving for the movies? And you hear something like, well, why don't we go this evening because right now I'm kind of busy? Okay, you say. And then again, the time comes to leave for the evening matinee and you ask, what time are we leaving for the movies? Again you hear, well, why don't we go tomorrow because I'm still busy? To which your response is based on the understanding that you had your heart set on going to the movies today, and so you say, why don't you make up your mind? The expression itself means to make a decision or make a choice. But it also means more than that. It is usually said when someone is getting fed up with someone else's dilly-dallying around. Someone who can't decide. For example, again, a child when given a choice of two colors for a jacket will first say he or she wants the red one. Then as the stressed parent is about to get it, they hear, no, I would really like the blue one, please. And the parent would probably snap back and say, why can't you make up your mind? It's interesting. Making a decision or making a choice isn't just for children. In Joshua 24:15, we are told, but if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. In Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, we are told, today I have given you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. In other words, make up your mind. You will either serve the Lord or you will serve the false gods of your ancestors. Or make up your mind. You will either choose life or you will choose death. You will either choose blessings or you will choose curses. Sometimes making a choice isn't that easy, and oftentimes takes a lot of research into what your decision will be. I spoke with what I thought was an intelligent person once, who said he chose to be an atheist, which is a non-believer or unbeliever in God. To which I responded, I admire your level of research into all the world's religions, including Christianity. And immediately I was told I didn't research any religions. I just made a decision based on what I felt about this subject. I asked, you mean to tell me that you decided there is no God based on how you feel, and that you never researched or read through the Bible prior to making your decision? That's right, he said, to which my response was, you're not an atheist, you're a fool. In Mark 8, verses 28 and 29, we read about Peter's confession of Christ, and we are told, they told him, saying, John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, but others, one of the prophets. And he continued by questioning them, but who do you say that I am? Peter answered and said to him, you are the Christ. In other words, Peter made up his mind when he declared, you are the Christ. In Matthew 16, verse 15, it said another way, but what about you? Jesus asked, who do you say I am? Peter answered, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. This brings me to a very important issue and the basis for today's message. We all say and believe that Jesus is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We proclaim boldly that Jesus is the Son of God. We have no issue with Scripture when it tells us in Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 through 17, which is about the supremacy of Christ. And it says, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, both in the heavens and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. These are areas that we don't have to make up our minds. We don't have to choose to believe it or not believe it, because deep down we know these declarations to be true. We believe them in faith, and we know them to be truthful to our very core. Many of us would not deny Christ openly, even if our lives were put on the line. Then why is it, my friends, we have such a hard time making a decision or choosing to believe other scripture that we read? In Romans 8, verse 11, we read, if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Jesus Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Spirit who dwells in you. Or John chapter 14, verse 27. I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give, so don't be troubled or afraid. And there are dozens of scripture where it would seem one day we choose to believe them, and when pressure comes, we change our minds. One day we walk in peace, the next day we walk in pieces. Make up your mind. You either have peace or you don't have peace. Christ said he gave us peace, and he's the Prince of Peace, and therefore he has the right to give what belongs to him. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Now, if God gave us that Spirit that doesn't make us timid, we need to boldly exhibit power, love, and self-discipline. We can't decide we have it one day and it's gone the next day. We need to believe what we believe. We need to bring closure to the areas in our lives that are constantly battling within us. There was an old bumper sticker that read, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. But truth be told, God said it, and that settles it. What we believe doesn't change the truth, only our relationship to the truth. If God said you can do it, then you can do it. If God says you are able, then you are able. If God said you are more than a conqueror, then you are more than a conqueror. If God said you are the head and not the tail, then you, my friends, are the head and not the tail. If God said it, that settles it. Make up your mind. You are who and what God said you are, and that, my friends, will not change. What we choose is either to agree with God or not to agree with God on what and who He says about us. If you agree, your life will change dramatically as you step out and be all that you can be in God. Or choose not to agree and live a life far below your God-given calling. As we are told in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, today I have given you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. And with that, I leave you with this. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yesemlecha shalom. The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord cause the light of His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn all of His attention to you and give to you the peace of God. See you again next week, my friends, at the tea table.